turned out to be a complete disaster because I wasn't really prepared for doing it, and I ended up with less than a squad attending, so I didn't really have the ability to form a squad and do the prac app I wanted to do. So so this time I decided on a whiteboard lecture, and if we end up with a lot of time extra, we might go into the training server for practical application, but most of this will be a whiteboard lecture. Rules of engagement here will be, obviously we have limited time, so we won't be able to cover everything and different squad types and section types and such. This will all be light infantry, since light infantry is the base of pretty much anything else. Obviously, don't be disruptive, but take notes. I'll make this link available, and I'll make my own lesson plan available with notes that you can use, but I highly recommend you take notes anyway. Ask questions. Don't interrupt, obviously, but when I do these natural pauses, I always do, then go ahead and ask some questions. Just say question, and I'll tell you if it's okay, or I'll continue. And try to stay on topic. Don't go talking about the platoon or company level tactics or simple stuff like fire team drills and such. Any questions on that? Great. So, introduction to the squad leaders course. Obviously, the squad leaders course is to teach you how to act as a squad, or as a squad leader, but also to teach you how to actually do tactics as a squad, because there are obviously a bunch of different ways to do it, depending on what kind of doctrine you follow and such. But the basic US light infantry squad follows some specific rules that I want to teach you guys, and teach you better how to use your teams and your team leaders instead of having to run the entire squad yourselves. And on here, on the page, I posted the squad leaders' responsibilities and duties in a US Army squad. So go ahead and read that. And some things you want to note is duties and actions throughout the mission, and some of the points at action during movements and hold and in objective areas. Actions in patrol base, not really Arma applicable unless we're playing MSO. But the most important note is, as a squad leader, you're responsible for what your squad does and what it fails to do. You'll be tactical leaders who lead by example. First part is, when you're responsible for what your squad does or fails to do, that means if your squad does something fucked up, it's not their fault that they fucked up because they're derping or something. It's because you, as a squad leader, didn't pick up your balls and got them to do what you wanted them to do through discipline. So whenever you blame someone in your squad, that's actually just you admitting you're a poor squad leader. Also, tactical leader who leads by example. A lot of people tend to interpret this as the squad leader has to be a point man, has to be super Rambo, has to run ahead and fucking kill everything. That's not it. Because the tactical leader part is important. You're leading fire teams. You're not leading this massive blob running around. You're actually leading individual teams. You have to do this in a tactical manner. You often see squad leaders who says, "Alright, squad, call them on me," and then just runs off and completely castrates the team leaders and makes them useless, instead of using the teams to his advantage. That's the most important part I want to say about you being a squad leader. Other duties is obviously your duty comes down to keeping your platoon leader and platoon sergeant informed of what you do as a squad leader, and comes down to making sure that your squad does exactly what the platoon leader wants and what he intends to have happening. So maybe not being exactly within the 50 meters he assigned to a squad, but understand what he wants to achieve and make that happen, instead of being one of those squad leaders that just think your squad is an independent maneuver unit and just move away from the platoon's intent. Throughout your mission, you will continue getting status reports and contact reports from your team leaders and report them on. You'll make recommendations to the platoon leader because you'll be a high-ranking member of the platoon, and you'll be able to say to the platoon leader, I recommend my squad does this while these two squads does this, in order to make the PL's job more easy. In a real infantry platoon, in the one I was in Afghanistan, the platoon leader didn't really have to do anything but say, I want you to go this direction or that direction, and forward or backwards. That was pretty much the only thing he had to do, and then the squad leaders just made recommendations that he could say yes or no to all the time. And that's actually how platoon is supposed to run. It's not the platoon leader telling each squad what to do. It's actually just the squad leaders knowing the platoon leader intends for us to do this. I recommend we do this. Also, during movements and halts, just as your team leaders has a responsibility to make sure that teams cover assigned sectors, you have a responsibility to check that team leaders actually get this done. And if they don't, then you tell them to fix it. If they can't fix it, then you overrule them and then make it, then fix the team for them. And that's your responsibility as squad leader. As I mentioned before, you're responsible for anything your squad do or fails to do. Okay, that's pretty much it for being a squad leader for this short introduction. Any questions on your job now? Nope. Okay. So the light infantry squad in US, it's the whole concept of this is that it needs to have two elements, and it has to have this because of the fire maneuver rule, that you can maneuver without fire at any point, or without security at least. So that's why we have these two fire teams, and you need to remember that as a squad lead. Even though one of your fire teams is decimated, you need to make sure they have equal amounts of firepower at all times, so you can do some reasonable fire maneuver at all times. Also, you have the squad leader as a separate man, and his job is now to coordinate efforts of the teams, and at the same time coordinate with the platoon. And that's because in the US they decided that a squad leader shouldn't have to talk to more than 3 guys, and that's a thorough doctrine they have in the US, that any leader shouldn't have to order more than 3 guys around, because it gets confusing and the weird stuff starts happening. So in this way,
rule of 3.
Yeah, 3-5 people. 3 to 5 people is the rule anyway. So the idea is that the squad leader now only has 2 fire team leaders to talk to and a platoon leader, even a PSG at some points. But that's to avoid it getting too confusing. And that's also why you want to be ordering your team leaders to do stuff. You don't want to tell the entire team what the team is supposed to do. You can just say, Team 1, I want you setting up security east, and then the team leader can figure out, okay, that means he wants us over there, and he probably wants us to tie in security with this team and that squad. And then the team leaders can go ahead and make that happen without the squad leader having to explain further. Another thing to remember, we're going to go into this later, but squad level tactics. When you're a squad leader, your actions on contact will differ greatly from what you've been taught in fire team level drills, because what you were taught in fire team drills was, as soon as you make contact, as soon as you engage, you form line facing the enemy and you put on fire. And that's still the same drill for the fire teams, but when we get into a squad, then it's only the fire team being engaged that actually should do that. The second fire team should wait for your order. And that's where you have to be quick and figure out, okay, is the front fire team able to handle this themselves? Ask them, can you handle this? If they can't, okay, then we need to get up an extra fire team, or tell them to pull back, and we'll and protect them with the second fire team. So you want to use that extra fire team, not just blindly form base of fire with it on the flank, just like you did, you would do in a fire team. You actually want to think about, is there a better way to use my other fire team than just do a squad line right here? And that's an opportunity that's often missed by you or people. I mean, you just lie down, form base of fire, 9 guys fire in the same direction, no report giving to the platoon, no initiative taken at all, and that means we spend a lot of time and ammo doing nothing. As we talked about, fire without movement is inconclusive, and that's why you're the squad leader is there. That's because as soon as he gets an idea of what he's facing, he'll do some action on his end, figure out how much he can actually do without losing his squad, and then he will actually start talking to the platoon and start telling the platoon what he thinks is a good idea for them to do, so they can actually maneuver upon the enemy. Let me just check my notes here. Yes, any questions so far?
Nope.
Was that a nope or yep?
It was a nope.
I assume that's no. Okay. An important tool for a squad leader and for any leader at all is an acronym the U.S. Army uses called METTC, and that's your mission analysis, so to speak. That's what you have to think about whenever you get a mission from your platoon leader, and you'll get that all the time. A mission can be something as simple as, I want you to go to this grid, set up base of fire, and cover first and second squad. That's a simple mission. But whenever you get a mission, you need to apply METTC, and you can do this very fast, and all of you have done it already without thinking about it. But these are some factors you need to think about whenever you do anything. I do it almost unconsciously, but whenever you have time, go ahead and think about these points. Are there anything you have forgotten to think about? I'm gonna go over it now. The first point is obviously mission, and that is, what is your mission to actually do? What's your task, so to speak? Task means, what are you told to do? Okay, I'm told to set up base of fire. That's your task. What's the purpose? Why am I doing this? I'm covering first and second squad. Okay. Do I have any constraints? Is there something I can't do? Yes, you can't move further north than your limit of advance, or yes, you can't fire to the west because you have another platoon there, for instance. That's what you want to think about always, is actually identify, what am I supposed to be doing here, and why am I doing it? And just as a platoon leader, and that's something the platoon leader is supposed to do all the time too. Whenever he gives a squad an order, he has to give them a task and a purpose. If you don't get a purpose from your platoon leader, you need to ask him. You need to ask him, what are you trying to do? Because yeah, I can move there, but why the fuck am I doing it? What are you expecting to happen? That's your job as a squad leader, to make sure your platoon leader actually thinks about what he's ordering instead of just giving random orders. Yes. Furthermore, you have to consider the enemy and the enemy situation, and in that you want to consider what's the enemy's objective, what's the enemy actually trying to do. Yeah. So, what's the enemy trying to do? Is he trying to delay us? Is he trying to stop us? Is he trying to attack us and kill us? Is he trying to outmaneuver us? Whatever. You need to think about that, and you need to think about his composition and disposition. What kind of elements does he have, and how are they placed in the terrain? It's told another way. What does the enemy want to achieve? How will he do it, and what troops will he do it with? So, so that's a point you want to write in about your enemy, or consider about your enemy. What's the enemy actually trying to do? And that relates to how you're gonna place your men, because you want to be able to counteract the enemy's intention. Next point is terrain and weather. Obvious what it means. You will have to, if you have weather effects, like you have sandstorm, you have heavy rain or something, is that going to narrow your visibility, and how will that affect your mission? For instance, if you're told to observe and you can only see 300 meters out, then you have to maybe inform your platoon leader that I can only see 300 meters, so this is probably not the best job for me, or the best position to take up, or some such. In terrain analysis, there is a acronym to use there called OACOG. I can actually post that, one sec. OCOG is an acronym for observations and field of fire, avenues of approach, key terrain, obstacles and movement, and cover and concealment. So that's the factors of the terrain you want to think about. What the fuck is this? Okay, I'm gonna kill something. Okay, that's apparently not working. Anyway, that's some factors you want to think about at any time. I'm trying to. Yeah, there you go. Obviously, in real life, weather is more for consideration because you want to consider: are my men gonna? Is it raining? Are my men gonna get wet? Do they have enough clothing for this, or do we have to think about how to get them dry? Shit like that. Not a huge concern in Arma unless it limits visibility. So next point is troops available. Troops available is obviously usually your squad, but also support available. Do I have call-on mortars? Do I have other squads in my vicinity ready to help me? How will they be able to help me? Is there any extra reinforcements coming in, and when are they coming, etc. That's a point you want to consider when you're doing your plan, because if you can't expect support, then you have to do a more cautious plan than if you could expect support. Now the most important factor of all is actually the next one. That's time, and that's because one thing is you're getting told that you're given a task and a purpose, but even more important is how much time do you actually have to carry it out. And usually time is the limiting factor here, because we can all make a fucking awesome perfect plan and all we can to put it into practice, and we can do it pretty much flawless, if it wasn't for the enemy trying to do the opposite to us, and that narrows our time window extremely. So if you're given a task like I need you to set up base of fire, that time window could be within a minute. So it's a factor you really have to consider whenever planning. How much do I have time for? Because if you don't have time for anything else, then you just think, okay, task was set up base of fire, purpose was cover first and second squad. The enemy is pushing on our left flank with light infantry. We have to cut them down. Terrain allows me to do that. Weather is not a concern. I have my squad available, and I have the two other squads to call on. I have 1 minute to get there. That's just a quick med TC, and that's just something that should be going through your head constantly whenever you get orders. Final point is civil concerns. Usually not a point in Arma, partly because of AI limitations, partly because of the AI being retarded, not acting like civilians would do. But it's in real life that's a huge concern as well. And in any counterinsurgency mission we play in game, they're a huge concern. It's actually something where you have to think about: is this an acceptable plan I have for attacking this building I'm attacking? Because there might be a fucking family of 12 kids and 2 wives and a husband in there. Probably don't want to go in there with grenade launchers first and blow a hole in the wall and shit like that. You might. So that's the civil concern. You want to consider that, and I've seen this be fucked up so many times in game, and it's actually one of the reasons we don't play real good coin ops anymore, because we end up fucking this point up. Okay, so any questions on Med TC?
I have a question about the time. Is the time something which your platoon leader would sort of direct you in, or is it something which you should be working out yourself?
That's actually twofold. Most of the time you'll be able to figure that out by yourself. If it's obvious that some maneuvers just have to be carried out instantly, but if you're not sure how much time he's giving you, if you have to be fast or slow, then you can ask, how much time do I have? Do I have 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do this objective? And any decent platoon leader should be able to answer, I expect you there in 2 minutes, or I expect you to fucking sprint there right now.
Alright, thanks.
So yeah, again, whenever you get an order from platoon leader, you get a task and purpose, and that's good if it's a perfect order he gives. But usually platoon leaders fuck up, they forget shit, and that's why they rely on squad leaders to say, wait, I'm not sure I'm following you. Am I supposed to do this or that and such? And that's actually a huge point for you. You have to be critical with your platoon leader. You don't have to say he's wrong or say he's doing something stupid, but you have to ask him those critical questions so you're not in doubt. So when your team sit around asking, wait, why are we doing this? Then you can actually say, we're covering this squad. We're trying to do this. This is a huge point that a lot of squad leaders don't really get. Okay, if there's no more questions on MedTC, we can move on. It's going a lot faster than I expected.
I mean, a lot of us have squad led a lot before, so.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, but that was also obviously I want to inform people who hadn't squad led ever, but also those of you guys that have squad led before who just want to pick up some extra info. And the next point here is actually something that very few people are aware of as well. And I hear a lot of complaining about points in this because they don't realize it. And that is warning orders and the decision cycle. The first is never really given when we play Arma for some reason, and it's just a warning order is a simple order given whenever a squad has to expect to be doing something. It's not given much because in Arma, you obviously you guys in such awesome shape. He never has to rest really. He is always good to go. He never gets tired and have to pull off his helmet or anything. He's just cocked rod and ready to rock all the time. So you don't have that as a time concern. Usually, whenever a squad's giving new objective, they get a warning order, such as your squad is to move, get ready to move into that objective. And a warning order.
Hydration isn't even your worst enemy.
Yeah, exactly. You can fucking run 18 kilometers an hour in fucking Afghanistan for 2 hours. You don't even have to drink. So yeah, warning order is actually just an order given if there are changes in your situation, your mission, your execution, your sustainment, or your command signals. And they're also known as fragos or fragmented orders. And that's just something any leader gives to his people. So the platoon leader gives a warning order to the squad that they have to be ready to move into a certain grid and do a certain job. That's a new mission, and he might give them an execution. I want you to go in squad column fire team wedge, and I want you to move in this time. And that's just changes to mission and execution. This new mission execution usually comes with change situation, so that might be because we're being outflanked. So those 3 points should usually be implemented in a warning order. So when the platoon leader gives his warning order, we're being outflanked, I want you to move there, and I want you to set up like this. Then you have to frag that onto your squad. So telling them there's a change in situation, there's a new mission, and we have to execute like this. And then they can get ready for that, while the platoon leader gets the rest of his platoon sorted, and then he can tell you, okay, go. So that's a point we usually don't get, and it causes a lot of confusion because it doesn't happen, because usually the platoon leaders here just say, I want you to do that, go. And then the squad leader doesn't have time to actually explain to his people what they're doing. So often the warning orders could help out a lot by just having a platoon leader saying, okay, we expect that we're going to be doing this within the next 5 minutes, because that gives the squad leaders 5 minutes to brief their squads, and the team leaders a few minutes to brief their own teams. So that's a point you want to consider as squad leader. Whenever you get the chance, give your people a warning order, and it's something as simple as okay, team leaders expect that we'll move north pretty soon and be doing this. and that's just increasing their situational awareness. And whenever you can, sit down and explain to team leaders what they're actually going to be doing, or why we're doing what we're doing. Another reason I mentioned the warning order is because it falls into something called the decision cycle, and that's actually mostly done on platoon level. But the decision cycle is what makes a platoon movement take time and a mission taking time, because when we start the game, the platoon leader receives a mission, he issues a warning order. That's just saying, hey, we're starting a new mission. And then he makes a tentative plan, and that's what he does in the briefing screen. He sits down and say, okay, I think we're going to be doing like this. Then he initiates movement, you spawn in, and you start moving. Then where only Red Lover and very few other leaders does is they conduct recon, and that's to confirm that their tentative plan will work. And that's just getting out there, getting a look at the terrain, seeing if the map is actually accurate, or you misinterpreted something on the map, and then you complete your plan. See if the tentative plan was perfect. Then as soon as you've done your recon, then you can initiate your tentative plan. But if it didn't work, then you have to rework it. Then you have to go back and issue a new op order or new fraggo to your element, saying, okay, we're going to do this instead, and then initiate the action and then supervise. And that's actually a thing for all leadership levels. It goes all the way down to fire team lead, all the way up to general. And the faster this decision cycle can go, the more likely you are to win an engagement, and that's the whole concept that made the Americans win the war in Iraq in 2003 with so few men as they did. It was because they had an extremely fast decision cycle, and the Iraqi army couldn't follow that decision cycle. So they always ended up getting outmaneuvered by small elements, and that were just large enough to ruin their battle plan completely.
I mean, despite the obvious technological advances, offshore bombardments, incredible amounts of intel, I think the list goes a little bit further than that. But that concept of outmaneuvering the Iraqi army is very solid.
Yeah. And that's actually a concept that most of NATO is incorporating, that you have, and that's why most NATO soldiers are taught this, because they have to understand that what this is, and why their job in the other end has to be done fast, so this decision cycle can be carried out very fast. And it's also why platoon movements are often delayed, because oh shit, something new happened, and then the platoon leader finds out he has a new mission, he has to do something else, and then this cycle resets, so he has to figure out, okay, we just found out that we're being outflanked, and then he issues a warning order, wait, we're being outflanked, stand by, makes a tentative plan, figure out where he wants his squad, then he tells them, move out there. His recon will be the squad leaders telling him if it's a good position, if it's a bad plan he's just made. Then he'll complete his plan saying, okay, we're going to do this, it works out. The op order will just be a fraggo saying, again, fuck, new situation, enemy outflanking us, squads, I want you to do this, execution, such and such and such. So statement, no change, command signals, no change, execute, and then shit should happen. But that's actually what takes time. And something you have to appreciate as a squad leader, understanding why the platoon leader can't get your Oscar mic right away. And it's also something you have to consider yourself as a squad leader, because when you get your warning order, you receive your mission, then you have to issue your own warning order, you have to make your own tentative plan for how you're going to complete the mission the PL just made, then you have to initiate moving, you have to do your own recon as a squad leader. Usually that can be done by map, it can also be done by binoculars, whatever. Then you have to complete your plan, identify, oh shit, something doesn't work, we can't cover from this building. Then issue your final orders to teams, and then execute that plan. So that's the general plan. It happens all the time. We don't think about it, but we actually do it all the time. And if we're aware of this, we can do it faster, because we know that we have to do this. Okay. So any questions on this?
Question. Yeah. If the tentative order doesn't go back, do you roll back to a whole nother order that you're going to be given?
Yeah, Yeah, if when you conduct your recon, you figure out your tentative plan didn't work, then yes, then you have to figure out a new plan, and then initiate movement for that, do your recon for it, and then complete it.
Alright.
It sounds like a lot of effort, but on squad level, that's just saying, oh shit, this house is wrong, we can't cover from here, let's move to this house. Yeah, this works. Okay, we're set up here. But that's actually a decision cycle, we just don't think about it.
Alrighty.
But I love questions because I can't possibly believe that you just got all this right away.
Yeah, I have to admit that last bit did clear it up for me.
I mean, this isn't the first time that I've heard this. I've heard IRL and some other stuff, so.
Okay, good. Okay, now moving back to what I mentioned before, actions on as squad. And this is actually to iterate the difference between being in a team and being in a squad. And on the left hand column, I have what the fire team does, and this should all be familiar to you. That as soon as you get in contact, you return fire. You give a contact report to your squad leader, and you recommend what the squad should be doing. The fire team leader and then you carry out whatever order you get from the squad leader, and then you keep your SL informed of how progress is, and keep telling him if there's any changes. Meanwhile, what the squad leader does is when a fire team reports contact and returns fire, then the very first thing he does is to get on the platoon net saying, 1-6, this is 1-1, contact, wait out. And that's the very first thing you do, because that lets the platoon leader know several things. First off, you're alive. That's fucking awesome to know as a platoon leader. He didn't just lose a squad lead.
I hate those weights.
It's it's a horrible weight, but it's really important because yes, he's alive. Yes, they're doing something. They know they're in contact. And then you get the.
They know who's my side. No.
But that just gives the platoon leader something to work by. As soon as you've done that, then you make sure you get a contact report from your fire teams, because obviously you can run out there and get eyes on yourself. But there are some disadvantages. Obviously, you're exposing yourself to enemy fire, and you may be biased by it. Actually, some would say that you want to stay back and let the fire team leader do the fire team level stuff, and you should do the squad stuff. So if you run into his fire team and go, look, okay, that's this and that, and then make a decision, you might not be considering all the other factors that go into it. But that's a consideration depending on doctrine again. So in any case, you make sure you get some sort of contact report. You know what kind of enemy you're facing, and from that you decide how you're gonna act. And you have to always have the three options. You can go offensive, you can go defensive, or you can stay in a base of fire. And offensive is obviously if there is an enemy fire team or less, then your squad should be able to handle it. And then what you identify is, can the front team take them out by themselves? Because then they should go ahead and do that. But is there too many for that? Is there 4 enemies? Okay, then we form squad line, and then we attack with the squad offensively. We simply rush towards the target with the fire teams bound towards the targets, and take out the target that way. There's also the defensive option. You find out the enemy is too strong or in too good a position for us to attack them. We have to get into a better position to fight them. So that's you identifying, okay, the squad can't handle this objective, and we can't be in a base of fire where we are. So we have to fall back. And then you want to, instead of having committed your both of your fire team to the fight already, then you could have the fire team that's less engaged move back to another position, cover from there, and then move the other fire team and then bound back into a good position with cover. And then either do base fire from there or try and break contact if the contact is so dangerous. And then you have final option, base fire, which is you thinking, I'm in a good position here, I have cover, I have concealment, and I can fight and I can hit the enemy with all my weapons from here. Then you form base of fire there and engage from there. So that's something you do as a squad lead. Once you've done that,